Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Angela Hammond? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the disappearance, then offer my analysis. Angela Hammond was born on February 9, 1971, and lived in Kansas City, Missouri. She went by the name Angie. Her father's name was Chris, and her mother's name was Marcia. When Angie was young, her family moved to Clinton, Missouri. This is a town of about 9,000 people, located about an hour and 20 minutes southeast of Kansas City, Missouri. Angie's parents divorced. Her father moved to Kansas. Her mother moved about 20 miles away. Angie remained in the town of Clinton. In November of 1990, she met a high school athlete named Rob Schaefer. They became involved romantically. In January 1991, Angie told Rob that she was pregnant. The couple decided to get engaged. They lived in a trailer which they rented. Angie worked as a night processor at a bank and took college classes. Rob had a dream of going into the military. Now moving to the timeline of the disappearance. On April 4, 1991, during the evening, Angie and Rob attended a barbecue at the home of Angie's mother. Angie dropped Rob off at his parents' house at around 10 p.m. so he could babysit his younger brother. Angie told Rob that she would call him later. She then drove around the town with a friend named Kyla. Angie dropped Kyla off at around 11:15 p.m. She then drove to a payphone at the corner of 2nd Street and Jefferson Street in Clinton. The payphone was in a parking lot of a store called Food Barn. Angie was about 7 blocks from the house of Rob's parents. At this point, there are 2 different stories which have been reported by various sources. One story is that Angie told Rob that she was too tired to come by his parents' house that night. She wanted to go home and take a bath instead. The second story is that Angie and Rob were supposed to meet somewhere that night. Either way, Angie and Rob continued to talk on the phone. During this conversation, Angie mentioned that she saw a suspicious pickup truck. It was an older model Ford pickup truck painted in two-tone green. The truck had pulled into the parking lot where the payphone was, drove around, then departed. After this, the truck returned to the parking lot and stopped by the phone booth. A man exited the pickup truck and used the payphone next to Angie. Angie described the man as having a beard and being dirty. He was wearing eyeglasses, overalls, and a baseball cap. After using the payphone, the man returned to his truck and shined a flashlight around as if he was looking for something. Angie supplied Rob a description of the flashlight. Rob asked Angie to ask the man if he needed to use the phone. Rob thought that maybe the other phone was not functional. The mysterious man replied no. He indicated that he would try the other phone again. Angie and Rob continued their conversation. They were not particularly concerned about the mysterious man. Moments later, at about 11:45 p.m., Rob heard Angie scream. He also heard the mysterious man say the words, "I did not need to use the phone anyway." Realizing that something was terribly wrong, Rob ran out of his parents' house without hanging up the phone and drove toward Angie's location. As he was driving, a pickup truck matching the description that Angie offered passed him in the other direction. He heard someone scream the name Robbie out of the window of the pickup truck. Rob realized that this must be Angie. He quickly turned his vehicle around and pursued the pickup truck south on 2nd Street. As Rob was chasing the pickup truck, the truck turned right on Calvert Drive. As Rob turned right to maintain the pursuit, the transmission in his vehicle failed. Presumably, it was damaged when he abruptly shifted into reverse to turn around. Rob's vehicle came to a stop on Calvert Drive. The entire pursuit was less than 2 miles. He exited his vehicle and attempted to chase the mysterious perpetrator on foot, but the pickup truck drove off in the distance. Rob was able to flag down a motorist who took him to the police station, where Rob explained to officers what happened. Not surprisingly, the police were skeptical about Rob's fantastical story. They initially considered him as a potential suspect, but within a week, he was ruled out. There were 2 witnesses who saw Angie, a mysterious man, and a pickup truck at the payphones. This corroborated a key part of Rob's story. The police continued their investigation. Here's what they found. The pickup truck was the best lead that the police had. Based on Rob's eyewitness account, the Ford pickup truck appeared to be from the late 1960s or early 1970s. It was two-tone green and may have had a white top. There was some damage to one of its fenders, and there was a decal of a fish covering the entire back window of the truck. The fish was jumping out of the water. The police searched for all the registered vehicles in the area that could possibly match that description. There were 1,600 pickup trucks on the list. They tracked down as many as they could, but did not find anything helpful to the case. The police noticed that there were 2 other unsolved cases that occurred in Missouri. They believed that they could be related to the incident with Angie. The first one occurred on January 19, 1991, less than 3 months before Angie's disappearance. A 42-year-old woman named Trudy Darby was working in a convenience store in Max Creek, Missouri. This is about 70 miles southeast of Clinton. At around 10 p.m., Trudy was alone in the store when she called her son and told him there was a suspicious man hanging around outside. Trudy's son made his way to the store and arrived there 10 minutes later, but no one was there. 2 days later, Trudy's body was found on a riverbank 10 miles away. She had been shot twice in the head. The second incident occurred on February 27, 1991, in the town of Nevada, Missouri, which is about 70 miles southwest of Clinton. The town's name is spelled like Nevada, but apparently it is pronounced Nevada. A 30-year-old woman named Cheryl Ann Kenny worked in a convenience store in the town. She closed the store for the night and set the alarm at 10:17 p.m. She was reported missing on the next day, February 28, after her car was found in the parking lot. The police had no success in finding Cheryl. In 1994, the case of Trudy Darby was solved. A perpetrator and his half-brother were convicted of her murder. There was no reason to believe that these offenders were connected to the case of Angela Hammond. There were no significant developments in Angie's case for many years. On April 5, 2021, 30 years and 1 day after Angie's kidnapping, the Clinton, Missouri Police Department released new information about the case. Here's what they indicated. A confidential informant had helped the police disrupt a narcotics operation by testifying in court. This meant that the informant's identity was released. The people he testified against now knew who he was. The informant received a cryptic letter postmarked on April 4, 1991, the same day that Angie Hammond was kidnapped. The letter was designed in the cut-and-paste style that is well known in the movies, like somebody cut each letter out of magazines and newspapers. The letter referred to the number that had been assigned to the confidential informant. It stated that the letter writer knew where the informant's daughter was and threatened that they would see her soon. The informant's estranged wife had their deepest sympathy. As it turns out, the name of the informant's daughter was Angie, and back when the letter was written, she lived in Clinton, Missouri. The police indicated that there was some physical resemblance between this Angie and Angie Hammond. However, during an interview with the media, a police captain said they were strikingly similar. The police also referred to a mysterious tipster who referenced the mistaken identity theory. They wanted this tipster to contact them again. At the time making this video, the case of Angela Hammond remains unsolved. Now moving to my analysis. The only real source of useful information in this case came from Rob Schaefer. Without his story, this case would look much different. It would have concluded with Angie dropping off her friend Kyla at 11:15 p.m. After that, it would have been like she disappeared into thin air. There would be no information about a dirty kidnapper wearing overalls, no pickup truck, no chase through the town. None of that would be known without Rob. Many people have noticed that Rob's story appears to be fantastical. It's like something out of the movies. This brings me to the question, was Rob being deceptive when he supplied his story to investigators? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Rob was deceptive, starting with the factors that support this theory. Angie was pregnant at the time she went missing. Presumably, Rob was the father. He may have had a motive to cause her harm. Rob was the last known person to speak with Angie and the last known person to see her alive. If Angie was too tired to meet with Rob, why did she stand for a half hour talking to him on a payphone? She could have driven to his parents' house in just a few minutes. The house was only about a half mile from the payphone. If Angie was nervous about the mysterious pickup truck driver, why didn't she simply return to her vehicle? It was parked right by the phone booth. If she climbed in her vehicle and locked the doors, she would have been in a much better situation as far as remaining unharmed. It seems strange that Angie would describe all these elements about the perpetrator to Rob, including the flashlight, but not move into a position of safety. When Rob heard Angie scream, why didn't he call the police? What was he going to do if he caught up with the mysterious perpetrator? Out of all the roads the perpetrator could have taken after the kidnapping, he selected the same road that Rob was driving on. There were witnesses who saw the truck and the mysterious man at the payphone, but how was it that nobody saw a high-speed chase that covered almost 2 miles through the center of town? Rob claimed that he could hear Angie call his name from the pickup truck. This is certainly possible, but it seems unlikely. Rob's vehicle just happened to break down at the worst possible time. His story does not represent the only possible explanation for the damage to his vehicle. Rob could have easily sabotaged the vehicle himself by driving forward and throwing it quickly into reverse gear. Now moving to the factors that contradict the idea that Rob was being deceptive. A key part of Rob's story was corroborated by witnesses. There was a pickup truck by the payphone, and there was a mysterious man by the payphone. Even without Rob's story, Angie's whereabouts are accounted for until 11:15 p.m. Rob arrived at the police station just before midnight. He didn't have a lot of time to make Angie disappear. If he was the perpetrator, why would Rob come forward so quickly? He should have given himself more time. In addition, why make up such a bizarre story? He could have said anything, like he was on the phone with Angie and she simply stopped talking. When he went to investigate, he didn't find anything. Why create a story about a high-speed chase? That doesn't help Rob in any way. It only makes him look suspicious. The police found Rob's vehicle on Calvert Drive. It was broken down, just like Rob had indicated. As far as Rob's failure to call the police and charging headfirst into a potential confrontation with the perpetrator, these behaviors can be explained by Rob's age. He was 18. In addition, he was a football player in high school. He probably felt brave and strong, like he could beat up the mysterious attacker. When considering the evidence, do I think that Rob was deceptive? In my opinion, Rob was probably not being deceptive as far as the key points of his story. I believe that Rob had nothing to do with Angie's disappearance. There was a mysterious man, there was a pickup truck, and Angie probably screamed on the phone. I'm not sure about the high-speed chase and Rob's other claims. Those are pretty difficult to believe. I'm also not sure about the description of the pickup truck. This doesn't mean that Rob was deceptive, but rather he just offered a poor description. Even though old pickup trucks are common in rural areas, the description of this truck made it fairly distinctive, especially with the big fish decal on the back window. If it was owned by someone who lived locally, it probably would have been tracked down. Moving to the next question, what do I think about the confidential informant theory? Again, this is the theory that someone was looking to harm a daughter of an informant as revenge. The daughter's name was Angie, but the criminal attacked the wrong Angie when he attacked Angela Hammond. The police have stated that they have some information that lends credibility to this story. They have not been able to refute this information. This statement is cryptic and less than helpful. I don't think this theory makes a lot of sense because how would the attacker have known that Angie Hammond was named Angie? It's not like she was wearing a shirt with her name on it. Did the attacker pull into a gas station in town and say to the clerk, "I'm looking for a woman named Angie to kidnap. Do you know where she is?" The clerk responds, "Yeah, I saw her down at the payphone at 2nd and Jefferson. And good luck with that kidnapping." Here's what I think happened in this case. This is just a theory, my opinion. Angie was alone at the payphone in a parking lot at night. The perpetrator in the pickup truck was driving around looking for trouble, or at least was amenable to the idea of getting into trouble. When the pickup truck driver saw Angie, he became interested in harming her. He circled the block and drove through the parking lot, trying to size up the situation. He wanted to see if Angie was alone. In a continued effort to gather information, he pulled into the parking lot and parked by the payphone. He exited his vehicle and pretended to use the payphone next to Angie. He decided that he was going to kidnap Angie, but he was hoping to attack her when she was finished talking on the phone. He played with his flashlight to buy time, but then Angie acknowledged that he was there by asking if he wanted to use the phone. The perpetrator decided to make his move. He kidnapped and murdered Angie. Now moving to my final thoughts. This case illustrates how the information used to conceptualize a case can hinge on one person's fantastical story. This makes the entire conceptualization fragile. If Rob's story of the wild pursuit was true, then the pursuit of justice will be difficult. If he was lying, then the entire investigation was a wild goose chase. Those are my thoughts on the case of Angela Hammond. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.